Yeah.
I saw it there, but I haven't seen it online.
Okay, well, it's
Anyway,
we're back. Hello. Zoom crashed. So maple syrup history number 37, episode 1, logic going through the syllabus. Barb, remember Zoom totally crashed on us. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. If it does, I'm going to write a very strongly worded letter to Zoom Inc. headquarters. Okay, suggested books. So we talked about Plummer's logic, plain and simple, etc. Here are the suggested books. Aquinas on law, morality, and politics. Oh, buddy boy. Brad King. This is the royal. This is going to be sick. Like, I already have this, but it's unbelievable. Aquinas on law, morality, and politics could be the entire class. And as all of you know, Aquinas had such an affinity and respect for Aristotle. He refers to him simply as the philosopher. We'll talk about some Aristotelian principles and Aristotle himself, especially through the helpmate guidance of Peter Kreeft, the famous Catholic apologist. Because too, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. This whole class, not only me being historian more than philosopher, therefore more Plummer's logic and textual analysis, how does logic serve the truths of our faith? Right? And there are things that are accepted on faith, things that are accepted on reason. What did John Paul II famously say about faith and reason? Anyone know? Faith and reason are like two wings upon which rise to contemplation. Some kind of, and I'm paraphrasing and therefore not getting it perfect, but it's like we need both, right? Fides et ratio is one of his encyclicals from like the late 1990s. That's great. Fides and ratio is like the sponsor of this class. This class is going to be about faith and reason. Maybe there are moments where, like, you know what? And Aquinas is such a great helpmate for this. A lot of things can be understood by the light of human reason. That is not contrary to God. If God is the author of all things, indeed he is, therefore he's the author of reason too. We can do full Plummer's logic on this stupid dichotomy, false dichotomy, which is an official logical fallacy. A false, that's our first like technical term of the semester. What is a false dichotomy, Barb? Anyone know what a false dichotomy is? Is it like a logical fallacy stamped? What is
positing a choice where the choice is not necessary?
Exactly. There's only two options, with the fact there might be 7 or 9 or 13. So I'm not a huge fan of capitalism. Therefore, we shall be Marxists. Ooh, false dichotomy. Or I really hate socialists. Okay, then I need to be an oligarch with 9 yachts or whatever, right? I really, really don't like the Idaho Vandals football team. Also, you love the Idaho State Bengals? Was your diehard? Wait a second, what? You know what I mean?
We do that all the time.
Yeah.
I always think of the political signs,
Yeah,
vote for kids.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. No, exactly.
Vote for you, I'm against kids. I mean, myself.
Or like if you see someone has like something like some kind of profane sign about Trump or about Biden, or then they're diehard Biden, like vice versa. This class is already crushing. This class is already doing great. Yes, but
years ago, one of my Christian student employees said to me, well, you just really have to turn off your brain to science when it comes to faith.
exactly. So stupid, so illogical. Exactly. No, you don't. And in fact, don't get me started, but we'll talk about when we get to a later book in the class that I'm going to read the title in a second. We'll talk about Catholicism and Protestantism and some of these logical fallacies inherent in some of these denominations who, in going like, sola fide, turn off that which is God-given. And so my false dichotomy, we've defined now, good. That is one of the ultimate false dichotomies present in society. One of the most illogical statements that you can either choose God or science. That's a false dichotomy, especially because the only question is, does God exist or not? You believe God exists, amen. Blessed be God forever. Therefore, he is the author of all things. Therefore, God is the author of faith things that we could never achieve by our reason, like understanding the Trinity. Understanding the Trinity can only be revealed by Jesus Christ. We can't come to that logical thing. How can there be 3 persons in one God, only one God, though? That's an article of faith. In fact, if you know your catechism, that's the central mystery of the Christian faith, is the Holy Trinity. Okay, that's a faith principle. But God also made the physical laws of the universe and gravity and 186,000 meters per second, the speed of light. All that is God's domain as well. Just because you use rational tools doesn't mean you're somehow not, that you're opposed to God. In fact, if you have any logical common sense, if you acknowledge the presence of an all-powerful first cause creator, he gave you those intelligible skills himself. Okay, so Aquinas is great on that. Aquinas is great on like a lot of things can be grasped simply by reason, and that law, morality, and politics. I mean, I can't wait. I in fact eliminated Cicero, one of his classes. I called him up, I texted him and said, it's not going to work. I told him he gets 2 classes. And the guy, can you imagine this? Because he's from Italy, he got me some beer from Benedictine monks. He's like, will this change your mind? He texted me a photo. I'm like, no, you only get 2 classes. Aquinas gets 6 classes. Brian Alexander liked that joke. He doesn't want to admit it. His facial expressions betrayed that he liked it. So that's gonna be fun. That's book number 1. Book number 2, these are not in order, in fact. Chesterton, Orthodoxy, unbelievable book. I'll give you a great example from memory that I remember reading this book about logic. And he talks about how logicians and chess players go nuts. Because the problem is, he says, the logician and the chess player tries to get the heavens into his head, tries to understand everything, goes psycho. Whereas the artist, the writer, the painter, philosopher, just tries to get his head into the heavens. And the latter is much more healthy and actually more logical. Just to be the first impulse of man is to wonder, wow, God's creation. I'm not going to try to understand it, I'll just take it in. Whereas the logic taken to a bad extreme, which we're going to avoid in this class because of who? Who's going to help us avoid the bad extreme of getting the heavens into our head? Who? What character? Who's the main character of our class? The undefinable plumber. No, the plumber. The plumber is going to show up and he's like, I don't want all this ivory tower nonsense. He's going to, how do we,
MM or MD or what?
MB. But in fact, him out. Hold on a second. This is absolutely genius. His name, everyone ready for his name? Is Peter Plummer. Plummer. The plumber MB.
Joe Plummer, some in politics.
It's like something. Well,
Okay, so
Yeah, Obama, yeah.
And we have, be careful, we have a family of plumber, of the name Plummer.
What did you say, Chesterton? Chesterton's book was?
Orthodoxy.
Orthodoxy 1907.
Okay. Thank you.
okay, this is the character of our class.
But I thought the whole idea of having the plumber was he didn't have a
Yeah.
PhD, he had common sense.
You want to hear the common sense he has? He got, look, this is Dr. Xavier BT Plummer. Plumber, it's his main job, but he also has Juris Doctor, he's a lawyer, he's doctor of osteopathic medicine, and he's PhD. He went through law school, medical school, and grad school, and that's the common sense. He's like, I'm going to become a plumber. That's how much, he's that much common sense. That's his main title on his card. Xavier, because he's Catholic. BT, you know what that stands for? He's a lovable guy, okay? Big Teddy, okay? And in fact, he goes by, if you're really good friends with him, Teddy. So Teddy from now on is the main character in our class.
But his nickname is Peter, right?
No.
Peter Plummer.
No, I never said that. I never said that. If I said that, I retract saying that.
You said a moment ago,
Yes.
people that.
Well, Dave, you know what? You've said a lot of things in your life. You've said a lot of things.
You said that some people are just taking it in, other people, really, whatever, however you put it. Look at our room, exactly 50-50 in terms of who has notepads out and take notes.
That's great,
The rest of
yeah.
us is Drinking.
Sure, yeah,
Drinking from.
that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. No, I mean, that actually seriously is always, I am a huge fan of that guy and that family in general. I can't help it. He always has really good points. He says a lot of nonsensical stuff, but he makes good points.
Hey.
Yeah, there's kind of wonder, the cognitive impulse, exactly, like taking the class as you want. And I hope ultimately, like, you use it as you see fit, that it will kind of, augment your experience as a Catholic living in these kind of troubled times. Back on topic though, and we'll go off topic a lot. It's 98% my fault. So truly, I'm the one that needs to keep myself on task doing that. Aquinas on law, morality, and politics, Chesterton orthodoxy, Cicero on duties, Peter Kreeft. His name is pronounced like 30 different ways. I pronounce it Kreeft, but if it's Kreft, whatever, like
It's great.
Crave, okay, it's crepe. I think it's croissant. Peter, whatever this guy's name is, Pumpkin Eater, Socratic Logic, a book called Socratic Logic, which is more boring than like watching someone watch paint dry on a wall. It is so freaking, I'm serious. Peter Kreeft, he wrote a book about apologetics, which is amazing. I watched an interview with him on Matt on Pints Aquinas. He's genius. He is truly, without any kind of like, people talk about Maggie Smith, the British actress's treasure. Like, he's a Catholic treasure. His Socratic Logic book is so boring. It is just like, yeah. But finally, Martignoni, Blue Collar Apologetics. Okay, this book really strikes at the core of what this class I think is. It's an EWTM book. It's probably going to be there's probably going to be some cheesy parts in it, to be honest, right? Hey, gang, let's gear up and learn stuff. What do you say? You know, that whatever.
You sound like Kamala.
That sound like Kamala, really?
Well, with your science talks.
I'm so flattered. Thank you. Really? You think I really sound like our vice? You think I sound like our vice president? Awesome. She's my personal hero. Finally, last book, David Foster Wallace, Infinite Jest, selections from them. I have nothing to say about this book right now, but later on I will. All right. So those are our 6 books. Do not feel any obligation to get them, please. They're not necessary. I'm serious. Like, this class will proceed upon me having a truly, actually, if you want to be like, let's be real cheesy together, you know, the way people like, oh, before we read Shakespeare, let's all like speak in a faux British accent, have like tea and biscuits and like get in the character. Like, we can be like, this is like the Platonic Academy in the 4th century BC, like that style, like Plato. Am I comparing myself to Plato? Yeah. I mean, he would be lucky to be compared to me, Krish. I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Like, proposing stuff in a class, and it's a dialogue. We'll have just a dialogue and talk. I'm just gonna be really interested to see what you guys know and what I know. And the last time I'll say this, because this becomes this kind of gross false modesty. Oh, I know nothing. Oh, it's got like whiny kind of behavior. But like, really, this is not my field of study. So I'm super excited to learn too as we go along. It's gonna be very, very fun. This is the 8th class at Benedict Augustine's, almost all of them in the past. So there was like on architecture, on sports, or no, we haven't done on sports yet, on film, excuse me, Civil War and Great War, like right up my wheelhouse, and like things that I've studied for, even like a decade or whatever. We're all gonna learn together. It's gonna be super fun.
You have any suggested translations?
Absolutely not. That to me is like,
So we have
of what? Of Cicero? I
was thinking,
that's the only one you need translated. All other ones are, Aquinas, excuse me, right? Aquinas too, yeah. Aquinas as well.
unless you
Wait, Aquinas didn't write in English? Aquinas was from like a trailer park in Florida. Come on. Aquinas.
Austin's for that.
So I can do for you, Betsy, I'll bring it to next. I have both these books. I'll bring them to class next time. The Aquinas and the Cicero. The Aquinas, and this doesn't help at all. This is very illogical, but it's like it's a book cover that's the color of your shirt, kind of this blue purplish color. I know it's that, it's very old and worn, but it's a nice thin volume. The Aquinas one and the Cicero one is a red and white book. I'll bring them in and I'll tell you what but you do not have to have the same. I assume, I know there's differences and stuff, but I mean, it should be.
There are big differences.
You think so, really? Why? Okay, so a serious question. So how much, if you have 2 people that are equally adept at Latin translation and like Aquinas on kingship, what's going to be the huge difference in the translation?
You're starting out with the assumption that 2 people are equally adept in translation.
Yeah, sure.
And if you look at some of the Summa
That's a logical
translations,
fallacy.
So some places there are errors where the English translation means exactly the opposite.
Right,
of
right.
what
Okay,
was saying.
that's fair enough. No, that's very, very fair.
I've encountered that too, where like there's grammatical misunderstandings in the translation of the Summa, and it's like, oh, like you're not getting it right, or like a word is just transliterated and it's not helpful at all. That's another huge problem.
I'd be the last person to judge anyone in that realm, but that's bad. I feel like if you're translating it, like that should be the #1 qualification. It doesn't have to even be like a devout Catholic, but to know what Latin.
But the trouble is, as C.S. Lewis says, every translation is a lie. You have to.
The meaning, yeah,
Yeah,
the depth behind it.
You to know more than just the Latin to be able to.
Well, even, and
translate.
there are no kind of idiomatic expressions like this in the Summa, I'm sure, that are so, and I use vulgar, not in a sinful way, but just like, common, like raining cats and dogs. Exactly. If I were to translate raining cats and dogs into Persian, I have to understand.
He does talk about how people say things and stuff, so he does use.
Well, what I'll do for you is next class, I'll bring in,
Especially in the objection.
Okay.
Or in the.
so I'll bring in the books I have for you, and I'll show you the ones, the version that I got, but do not feel bound to get those. But I mean, if, I think they're pretty good. The preface of one is by some like professor from Boston College. So I assume he's, his translation should be pretty solid, but I don't know. I'll bring them in next class. But good question. I do not require, as I'm not requiring the books that suggest, I'm not requiring a specific version, but I will show you the ones I have. Okay, class by class lecture themes. Last thing before we start. Today is Wednesday, January 11th. This class is Monday and Wednesday. Introduction and Fundamentals 1. And that's the same thing we have all next week. Monday and Wednesday. Do you guys want to meet next week? I think I was like, fudge, like next Monday is a holiday, right? It's MLK Day, I think. I mean, I'm cool still being here, like, and like we can like,
My kids still have school.
so let's come in, let's have the class and let's,
Human Rights Day.
he's called Human Rights Day? I don't know, see, it's like, I don't,
Study logic, which is-
good, so let's just have class.
So we're celebrating this.
Good, let's have class like normal. I agree. There's just too many, MLK, awesome guy. There's way too many like holidays and stuff. It's just like, and exactly, why does that? It's not a Saints Day where it's like, Christmas or something. They're close, I don't know, whatever. But like, there's just too many days that are canceled. Let's not cancel. It's not cancel days. Okay, that's all next week, fundamentals. And then you see on Monday, January 23rd, logic at the foundation of the world, Genesis. Then we have Socrates and Plato. And then I'm not going to read all of this, you can read this for you later, but up until spring break, we're very tightly focused. We do 2 classes on Aristotle, 2 on Cicero, 1 on Augustine and Boethius, 6 on Aquinas. 6. Boethius is a legend. That's, by the way, big actually stands for Boethius, but he's Big Teddy Boethius.
Oh, wait, so we're
Freedom Council.
studying Boethius, but not reading Boethius.
Not from a text I'll bring stuff in, we'll talk about his ideas, but not, no, yeah, I don't want it to become like where you have to get like 30 books. Sure, yeah, totally. If you want to even pull out a sheet for me and everyone can put their email on it. I have most people's email, I think, here, but like if you're new, please, that'd be very appreciated.
And for online readers, you should be able to find the works of Aquinas online.
Yeah,
There's a website,
sure.
Aquinas.cc, which has pretty much everything, and so at least everything in Latin.
I'm telling you now,
And then Chesterton's in the public domain, so you can find it.
Good. well, I'm telling you now that we're gonna be reading from Aquinas strictly from that book. That book, so get that book on law, morality, and politics. That book is like 300 pages long. We could do the entire class on that book. His ideas on kingship, on death penalty, on like really cool, interesting ideas that apply today, despite the different cultural differences, the kind of theoretical, logical points once more. After the spring break, so I guess I'm going to read all to you. Sorry, said I wasn't. I guess I am. William of Ockham. Why? What is his big thing? What is William of Ockham's big contribution?
The razor. He's shaving.
See, exactly. Yeah, he was the first one to invent the 5-blade Gillette, the best a man can get.
Is that Occam's razor?
No.
So he's right, but even more so. Exactly. That's maybe more famous.
It's-
Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is one you should start with. Sure, but what is the?
His chief heresy was
Nominalism.
Denial of substance.
Yeah, and the denial of substance, denial of universals. And and so you can say Occam in some ways. I mean, I would argue Pontius Pilate is the founder of relativity, right? Of relativism. What is truth? He says to Christ while he's looking at the way, the truth, and life, the 18th chapter of John's Gospel. But in Occam, in denying universals, everything is particular. Everything is kind of, that's not a big leap later on. We should discuss next class to Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Reality is in my own mind. Cogito ergo sum, right? Talk about Renaissance, Pascal, talk about logic in the social fabric, talking about Marx to Leo the 13th. Anyone immediately familiar with especially economics, we're probably gonna talk about like economics, right? Communist Manifesto versus Rerum Novarum and kind of capitalism of that time. 3 classes on Chesterton, 2 classes on blue collar apologetics. Listen to this. Monday, April 17th, because the last 3 classes are all David Foster Wallace. On logical theory in chess plus Mike Leach. the late great Mike Leach. Anyone know he died? Who knows that? Yeah. Mike Leach, absolute legend. He's been a star of my Hippo lectures. I'm so proud that I included. It's not like, oh, Mike Leach died now, and indeed, God rest his soul and pray for his soul. But that happened now, so now I'm going to posthumously honor him. Mike Leach, anyone who's come to my Hippo lectures, and I quote him all the time. I love him. We're going to talk about are his comments logical? Mike Leach once has a comment. He's like, I'm quoting very loosely, but he's like, I don't know if Bigfoot exists. I don't know. Maybe. You go out into the forest, it's dark. People see things. Things are seen. We don't know. Shadows. Like maybe that's logical. It sounds like maybe Mike Leach was an absolute logical genius. We're going to break apart his quotes. There's going to be a lot of fun in this class, I think, as well, in addition to like serious stuff, all of it. Anyways, we're done with the syllabus. Barb Aston, do you think we crushed that? Are you like, I'm ready to go? Barbara wrote, plumbers clear out. Barbara wrote, plumbers clear out the exclamation point, asterisk, hashtag exclamation. I don't know what that means. You're right. Exactly. We need to. Barb, I agree with you. They really clean out the expletive in our pipes. And we want our guy, Dr. Xavier Big Teddy Plumber, JDDO PhD, to help us clear out the cobwebs of our head, of our logical fallacy. So without further ado, let's begin. I'm so excited, guys. I think last class we had a record, remember? I think it was 17 seconds of this. That was like 4 seconds. That wasn't long. All right. Ready? 3 laws of logic. 3 laws of simple logic. You guys ready for this? It's the first lesson. The law of identity. The law of the excluded middle. What's the last one? Law of identity, law of the excluded middle, law of what? Non-contradiction. The principle of non-contradiction. Okay, these are 3 things. I'm glad that we're starting off already now, and we'll go over the next 40 minutes, get some of these basics down, because I'm going to bring you your plumber's logic algorithm, which will include some of these in shorthand.
What was the third one again?
Law of non-contradiction. Number 1, law of identity. Number 2, law of the excluded middle. Number 3, the law of non-contradiction. Okay, what is the law of identity? Anyone know what that means? Now, to be fair, really quickly, few systems of logic are built exclusively on these 3 laws, but they are foundational. They are important.
I think the law of identity means you need to have 3 terms in your syllogism, and things, when you use a term, it has to be used in the same way, so we can't equivocate on terms.
That second part is very good. Stay on the second part, not the first part. That's the second part.
Yeah, it's like we can't equivocate on term. I'm just reminding myself this first semester of college. So we have, so like what we were doing earlier with the word style, does it mean the style of your hair or the style that people wear or things like that? That's an equivocation. So if you start building syllogisms in equivocated terms, you're going to break the syllogism, and that's a way of sneaking things by people. That's like,
Which would be a fallacy, which is
It's
illogical.
like saying something like Dr. Grosjean is a jackass. Jackasses have long ears, therefore Dr. Grosjean has long ears.
Right, exactly.
So I've used the same term in 2 different ways. Can't do that. It's 3 terms into a syllogism.
Good, okay.
That's the problem with that.
Well, it's the problem that
Everyone's always giving me BS on my ears.
if you use jackass in 2 different meanings, then break the syllogism.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. The law of identity, and you know what I love? It's both infuriating but also very rewarding. Is logic definitions are so stupidly basic. They're almost tautologies. Tautology is when tautology means. But by the way, not to get too far, we're gonna do all these terms. Tautology is when a thing always is that thing. Bachelors are unmarried men. Yeah, why would you? Yeah, duh. Right. The opposite of tautology is a contradiction. Like when it makes no sense. But tautology makes so much sense, it's almost unnecessary to say it. That's kind of what the law of identity is. The law of identity states that each thing is identical with itself. So it's right, a thing is a thing, nothing else. A thing is what it is, and nothing more. So one of the earliest recorded uses of these laws occur in one of Plato's dialogues. And as you know, right, FYI, SPA in order. Socrates teaches Plato, Plato teaches Aristotle. It's very hard to distinguish often Platonic from Socratic thought, because Socrates too didn't write anything. Socrates often appears as a character in Plato's work, and they're both very much about forms and kind of universals. And the person that's inspired by Plato, and he was a Neoplatonist for a long time, was St. Augustine. Whereas Aristotle, who's Plato's student, very earthy science guy, get your dirt on your fingernails, aspires Aquinas. And again, this is very basic stuff. We're gonna break open this hard shell. Imagine right now you went to your favorite grocery store, got some of that hard shell syrup you pour on ice cream, hardens over, and crack it down to the bottom and eat all of it. So this is very basic right now, but okay. In this Platonic dialogue where Socrates is a character, Socrates says to this guy, okay, Socrates, with regard to sound and color in the first place, do you think this about both? Do they exist? Do sound and color exist? Guy responds, yes. Socrates, then do you think that each differs to the other and is identical to itself? Do you think sound is sound and color is color, and sound is not color and vice versa? Certainly. Socrates, and that both are two and each of them one. Yes, that too. That's the law of identity. Freaking sweet, right? That's good stuff right there. That is good stuff. That is like a guy just came in, like, why is this guy in the field? And he intercepts a pass, runs back for touchdown. Gets the penalty for celebrating, but you're like, let him celebrate. It's fine. He really made a great play right there. Anybody angry at TCU? Anyone watch the college football championship? They lost to Georgia 65-7. Yeah, exactly. It's like this. They didn't have this and like a bulldog eating it, eating the horned frogs.
The greatest sign.
That's a cool sign. It's a cool sign. The law of identity states each thing is identical with itself. It's not other things. And Ryan, in the syllogistic, kind of like structure, that would be a fallacy to, in a sneaky underhand way, change the meaning midstream or use it in two different ways. In fact, I have that, again, this is the first 3 classes. If this is boring, sorry, this is logic. Like, I can't wait to get to the stuff I'm so pumped about, the plumber's logic text, but we're going to spend the first 3 classes defining these things, like 80 of these things. Sorry, Trish. Sorry. I've seen the stuff you've written about logic, quote unquote, in your Twitter feed. I get it. I saw the Facebook group you founded, and that's horrifying, but okay. All right. Number 2, law of excluded middle.
I'll give you an example against that.
No, that's okay. I don't care. Go ahead.
So if I said, all cats meow, all cats are furry, therefore all furry animals meow, I would have excluded my middle term. We could, a valid thing to say would be that, let's say, this animal meows. All animals that meow are cats, therefore this animal is a cat. We've gotten our middle term instead of.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. And again, this is awesome. Thank you for that. That's very well said. A lot of logic, actually, I think logic is a negative science often. A lot of logic is what things are not rather than what it is. It's like, it's kind of, and in fact, Socrates, and we're going to talk about Socrates in, I think, a week or something, or 2 weeks, go through his kind of mini biography. Socrates' famous gadfly thing was to get you to arrive at aporia, I think it was called. Anyone know what that means? Well, what is it? What does Socrates like to do? Why do he get people really angry? He gets executed for this. He gets executed technically for impiety, but he drinks hemlock willingly, 399 BC. But what is he? Anyone remember what Socrates? What did he like to do? Why did people hate him? He asked questions to break apart what you really believe down to the lowest factor. And often you'd rise at aporia, where you'd be like, you know what? I don't know why I believe that. A lot of people who are morons, most people are morons. A famous comedian once said, imagine how stupid the average American is, and then half of the Americans are dumber than him. It's like, yeah. And yeah, I don't like, how dare you say that? So maybe for a lot of people, it's like, I'm a Baptist. That's my denomination. Why? And that's enough to be like, I don't know. They're already in aporia. I have no idea. But a lot of you might be like, I'm a Baptist. Why? Socrates would say, well, my parents were. Okay, well, then why are you? Well, it's a family tradition. My grandparents were too. Okay, but why? Because they came over, from Europe, and it's 200 years. Okay, but why? I guess the Protestant Reformation. And then, but finally he reaches a point where he's lived. He's like, I don't know why I do it. I guess I just gave you the reason. And people wanted to, they hated Socrates for this. So logic kind of is a negative field. That's why a lot of stuff we're going to spend on the next 2 weeks or the next week and a half is on fallacies, on Socratic, like good riddance to you. I mean, good luck and God bless you. Ryan, thank you always for your wonderful contributions as always. Have a great day. Breaking apart what things are not, and therefore we can get to what things are, right? Definition: the law of excluded middle states that for every proposition, either this proposition or its negation is true. Aristotle says in his Metaphysics, it is impossible that, quote, being a man should mean precisely, quote, not being a man. This is not the same as the law of non-contradiction, but it's very, very close. But the best example I can think of this is you can't be half pregnant, right? Like a woman is either pregnant or not. Law of excluded middle. There is no excluded middle. This actually is the right way. This is when there is.
Example then.
For the law of the excluded middle, your example is good. Your example is still an example of fallacy. Stop. I'm dead serious. It's not fake kind of sycophantic compliments, but I'm sure you know 10 times more about logic than I do from a formal. So no worries. Your example is great about the change of the word midstream. Yes. And I promise you, I will do that right now on your request. And I promise when we finish the examples, I'll also repeat them because we want to get these in order. A lot of this stuff is confusing. Right now, the law of the excluded middle states that for every proposition, either what's being said, or its negation is true. Okay. Either this guy is a man or he's not a man. Can't be middleman. This woman is pregnant. That's the proposition. Amy is pregnant. Or Amy is not pregnant. There is no middle. That's the law. She either is or not pregnant. There's no middle ground. This is where you avoid a false dichotomy. This is where it either is A or B. The law of excluded middle doesn't work for like political parties because there are more than 2 political parties, right? Like it's not just Republicans or Democrats. In fact, I'm a member of the Green Party. I'm a member of the Communist Party. I'm a member of the Catholic Theocratic Party. Like I can make up my own party. But in the law of excluded middle deals with what we could say is black and white things, right? Brad King is alive. Therefore, he's not alive. He's alive. There's no middle. He can't be kind of alive. He's Schrodinger's cat. Have you heard of this? Yeah, like the cat is either alive or dead in the box. No, that violates that. There's no Schrodinger's cat speaks the truth that perspective is relative. Why do you think the cat is both simultaneously dead and alive? Because you don't know. It's your failure. The cat in the box either is alive or dead. It's not both. It's alive and dead in your mind, which is fallacious, which is, itself spouting, an illogical proposition here. Okay, I'll review all these, I promise, because these are great.
Thinking about, your, when we get into optics, we start having to, depend on not knowing on some of those things, don't we?
What do you mean by optics? The field of
The
optics?
field of optics.
But what is that? What is the field of optics? Okay. So like string theory stuff, like cosmological physics,
Yeah,
the universal rules.
there are some. Aren't there, don't you get it to a point where there are some equations that you have to depend on not knowing?
So this is great. Time out. This is Plummer's logic. Our guy's back. Big Teddy's back. All of life depends upon faith. In fact, I was talking to Father Chase the other day, and he said, he's like, the scientists who are the most militant atheist people denounce faith and then go in the lab and practice faith and just assume things, assume subatomic particles. And of course, that's why in this class, we're going to talk about things that we can know logically. But what did Thomas Aquinas say? Philosophy is but the handmaiden of theology. A certain thing ends, and you have to be like Soren Kierkegaard, who's famous for his leap of faith. All right, Lord, this is the best I know. Okay, then I'm just going to dive into Jesus, I trust in you. That wonderful mantra of the motto of the Divine Mercy Chaplet. So what's true in the ultimate question, trusting God, is true. And of course, with physics and people who are physicists, who are cosmologists, people like the late Stephen Hawking, God rest his soul, are the most faith-filled people, just not religious faith, sadly, often. But all they do is faith. They're just assuming stuff. Like people don't even know yet why there are black holes in the universe. People don't know why there's not white holes, like the opposite, just like streams of light. People don't understand like what's the potential of antimatter and energy. And this is all stuff way beyond my ken. If I'm not a philosopher, I'm definitely not a freaking physicist. So let me just shut up. But it's like there's tons of stuff, that we assume. Okay. Leibniz said about the law of the excluded middle. Ready? This is great. Everyone ready? Law number 2, excluded middle. Every judgment is either true or false. That's the law of the excluded middle. Let's keep it as simple as possible. Let's keep it as Big Teddy as possible, plumber as possible. Let's avoid the ivory tower and all these definitions. The law of the excluded middle. Every judgment is either true or false. Okay. Every judgment, black or white, true or false. And if we affirm that Amy is pregnant, it is 100% assured by this law that she is not pregnant, or she can't be kind of pregnant. Okay. That's why the term semi-professional really sucks. It does. Yeah. If this guy played in like the 9th league soccer league in Afghanistan, it was a joke and it's terrible competition, but he was paid and it was a job. He's professional. He didn't play semi, he played professional soccer. It's the same as playing professional in the English Premier League. The difference is degree. Exactly. Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. No, para is semi. Para really means semi. I think para is the Greek word semi. I think like paramedic, a semi-medic. It's stupid. Paramedic should be medic. I'd rather call paramedics mobile medics because they're using driving somewhere in a hospital or in ambulance. I could not think of the word ambulance. I was like, what is that word called? That car, ambulance. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Number 3, law of contradiction states that contradictory propositions cannot be true in the same sense at the same time. Okay. The law is not to be confused with the law of the excluded middle, which states that at least one or is not. So the law of the difference between the law of non-contradiction. Let me first read Plato's definition. The same thing clearly cannot act or be acted upon in the same part, in the same relation, the same thing at the same time in contrary ways. So the law of excluded middle is that every judgment is either true or false. I'd say it's a more foundational kind of thing. It's a more general thing, true or false. The law of contradiction is things that are true or false in action. So the famous example Aristotle gives is the road to Megara or whatever. Excuse me, let's do our examples. What is Megara? The road to Colfax cannot at the same time not be the road to Colfax. So it's similar to the excluded middle, but it deals with like actionable things, like a road, right? The road to Colfax cannot be the road not to Colfax. And some wise guy could be like, wait a second, I take, let's say, what is that road to Colfax? 195, right? They'll go up to Spokane. Well, yeah, I take 195 to Colfax, but if I take it the other direction, it's the same road. It's not the road to Colfax. No, you would have to define, to be precise, logical terms. If you're in Pullman, starting place and time, taking I-95 north to Colfax cannot also not take you to Colfax. And let's even define an itinerary. I'm going to drive from Pullman to Spokane through Colfax and eventually, past Rosalia and all that. And that road, if that is that thing, it cannot also not be that thing. So I would say it's almost like a more developed and in action of the excluded middle kind of principle. So go ahead, sorry.
I was going to ask you to repeat. When you gave a term and then you gave a definition, could you repeat that?
Yeah.
Definition?
So the definition that Plato gives was the same thing. This is what you want?
You said the law of contradiction, and then you gave I thought you gave a brief definition.
So I said the law of okay, yeah, you're right.
Is it non-contradiction or contradiction?
Non-contradiction, excuse me. Yeah, exactly.
It cannot be both contradiction.
Exactly. The law of non-contradiction. The law of non-contradiction states that contradictory propositions cannot be true in the same sense at the same time. The road to Colfax can all at the same time cannot be not the road to Colfax. And then Plato says, quote, the same thing clearly cannot act or be acted upon in the same part in relation to the same thing at the same time, but in contrary ways. Okay, let me review the 3 laws really quick before I go further into the law of non-contradiction. Already our heads are exploding, right, Barb? I mean, mine definitely is. Number 1, the law of identity. The law of identity states each thing is identical with itself. Number 2, the law of the excluded middle states that for every proposition, either the proposition or its negation is true. And Leibniz really does a nice job screwing that in. quote, every judgment is either true or false, period. And the law of non-contradiction states that contradictory propositions cannot be true in the same sense at the same time. Okay, now, in this number 3 law of non-contradiction, ready for more mind batter? You know, your mind's like cookie dough. We put too many eggs in, it's very runny right now. It's like, what's going on? Aristotle identifies 3 different versions in his metaphysics of the law of non-contradiction, this 3rd law: ontological, psychological, and logical. For ontological, quote, it is impossible that the same thing belong and not belong to the same thing at the same time in the same respect. Number 1, ontological. Not possible for the same thing to belong and not belong to the same thing at the same time in the same respect. Okay, so ontology, like the origin of all things, you know, God is the all-powerful being. He possesses all power. In fact, potency, power, right? God is omnipotent. He therefore cannot at the same time not be omnipotent or be limited in his power. Okay, that's the ontological one. Psychological. No one can believe that the same thing can be and not be. Great. I can't profess to be a Catholic and say I believe psychologically. Well, what is the suka, the Greek term? What is that for? You know what that means? The soul. Like psychology literally means like the logos of the soul. The field of psychology deals with the soul, that kind of the interior man, right? So me in my essence, who I am, my soul, I can't believe in my soul, believe in my heart of hearts, believe as a person that yes, the Catholic Church is founded on the rock of St. Peter, and at the same time be like, yeah, but Peter never was the Pope. I can't hold those 2 things. That violates the law of non-contradiction in a psychological way. And finally, logical, number 3, the most certain of all basic principles is that contradictory propositions are not true simultaneously. Okay, it's freaking awesome. I'm like on cloud 9 right now. This one's great. So he's like Aristotle, the most certain, the thing we can say above all certain. And he's like yelling at Moscow, Idaho, 2023, and all the pollution, all of America. I don't know what to tell you guys, Aristotle's saying. And if you hear you have some kind of annoying podcast, you know, like Apple, Spotify or something, and he'd be like, I don't know, guys, bro, homies, but you cannot hold one thing and its opposite at the same time. Because this law of excluded middle, you can't be like, yeah, I have a podcast dedicated to pregnant/non-pregnant women. They're just, I don't know. They're both. I believe both. Illogical.
It was dedicated to pregnant and non-pregnant women.
That's not a contradiction. That's either 2 separate entities or an evolution. So
you said you have a podcast that is dedicated only to pregnant women and dedicated only to non-pregnant women.
right. The exclusivity is two groups of people. There's pregnant and non-pregnant, or it's dedicated to our fictional character, Amy, we invented in this class. It was dedicated to Amy when she was not pregnant and still to Amy when she's pregnant. It's still Amy, but there's obviously what's been now changed is time, it's chronology. Time has evolved her from non to yes, pregnant. The most certain of all basic principles is that contradictory propositions are not true simultaneously. Okay, deep breath, let's move on. That's good. Okay, those are those 3 laws. That's freaking sweet. Okay, keep that in mind. I'm again trying to deduce this to you to a plumber's logic algorithm that will apply to everything we read. So when we're reading Cicero, is Cicero not is he avoiding the excluded middles? He's saying things like every, you know, it is for Rome to function, every citizen must be the logic behind that statement. Can that be held? What you just said 2 lines upward and whatever, like, right? We will never get through it. That's why I love Plummer's logic and textual analysis. We're not going to be stopping and like plugging these into everyone, or we would never get this class done. It'd be a 100-hour class every day, right? But I'm saying that hopefully we'll get to the point where we reflexively apply these logics. You know, are there contradictory terms in here? Are the terms the same? Betsy's excellent thing about the furry animal. Like, is it being used consistently?
But I gave you not a.
But again, that's totally fine. I loved your example. I'm not, and that above all too, in this kind of plumber's logic MO, I'm not so much interested in terms. I don't care. Know the terms. I'm interested in being able to, my ultimate dream for this class is about one thing is when we go out to society and walk down the road and read the paper and talk to people, can we just be thinking logically, reflexively? Like, no, that's not, I'll give you an example. My son today was saying something like, it was hilarious, made me laugh, a 9-year-old on the way to school, about he's like, it was completely illogical. And it's hilarious how, yeah, he's a kid, like we say illogical stuff. He made some comment about like a pizza place, and then he's like, oh yeah, I was right, because look at that guy. And they had nothing to do with each other. It was just like, pizza's really good in Moscow, and someone's watching, like, I bet that guy likes pizza. So I was right about that, pizza's really good here. It was like, that's very easy, but like, yeah, that's not logical at all. That is not supportable. There's no evidence to support that you think pizza perfection is good because you saw a guy who looks like he might like pizza. And he connected those two. There's no connection whatsoever.
Because I do like.
It was you, actually, yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Dave, why do you waste class time with comments like
Here's
that?
a question along those lines, for example, and I want to clarify on this. Someone once said to me, in her opinion, that a system, a government, an egalitarian government, that includes provisions for welfare and that sort of assistance, has already failed.
Why?
The point being, if you have to build in that kind of aid, then you have already admitted that we're not going to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a good point. That kind of stuff, I don't know right now, but like that's the kind of stuff that we're gonna like chew on in this class. Does the welfare state, right? What is our immediate knee-jerk reaction? Whether we're conservative or liberal in those kind of two general camps, and I am being a false dichotomy, I'm being illogical in saying that, it's not just those two, but stereotypically, we either say yes, right? I'm for the welfare state, LBJ, great society and all that. So I'm for it. Welfare state is good. More tax the rich out of existence, help them. Or maybe I'm a super libertarian, like, there should be the greatest tragedy in American history is 1913, the development of the, federal income tax.
But you could also start saying, instead of saying all situations in government should be.
Thank you. That's exactly where I'm going with it, is that exactly. Thank you. Thank you. That's so great. That's exactly what we're going to do in this class. We're going to go beyond just, I have my knee-jerk opinions, but let's talk about it. Let's break it apart logically. Is it logically deducible? We're going to go full. I'm sorry, sad Ryan Alexander is gone, because if you don't know, he's a lawyer in the making. He's in law school here. We're going to be like lawyers. We're going to try in the court of Plummer's logic. Big Teddy, he's Supreme Court justice too. So by the way, with that, he's also SCOTUS. Okay, he's Chief Justice. All right. So we're going to be when we try these cases, like, does the evidence hold up to what you said? This one has opinion, and have you ever thought about it deep enough? Maybe not. Maybe you have, but I'm saying, like, I don't know, right? And even your answer is so well formulated by you. Like, there's like, yeah, that seems to make sense. Like, but that's not good enough. Like in this class, we're not gonna be like, yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, does it make sense? I gave the example of my sweet boy, who I love. Like, it's automatic X. Now, there is no connection between, I think pizza perfect sounds great, and there's a guy I saw who looks like he likes pizza. That's easy to be like, done. But like, there's more complicated ones. Like, is there a connection? Is there a connection here? Oh, it seems like every city Democrats run has problems with blank, or it seems when Republicans do this. We have these kind of, I love talking about politics because it is so high charged, and it is so like fraught, and it's often so on to the next. Tucker Carlson said this, so obviously it's true. CNN said this, I'm dyed in the wool liberal. Yeah, it's right. Like, we'll just do that. Like, no, wait a second. Like, what is being said? Is it logical? That's Plummer's logic. And I'm getting tingles. I'm so excited. I'm not really. I'm not at all. I wish I was. It's a cool feeling.
You either are.
And I'm not. I wasn't a fallacy. It was a lie. It was a lie. Okay. So other things, we're almost done. This is great. This has been a great first class. I really mean that. It's been awesome. But I think we've hammered out a lot of themes. And again, I am, at the risk of being a broken record, I am being one. These are just the first couple of weeks. I can't wait to read the text. It's gonna be so freaking fun. Hey, Barb, Cicero said blank. Do you agree? Death is better than being a traitor to your country. As he says that. Is that let's say hypothetically, right? Is that true? Is that logical? Why? And like, what are the social, like, it's gonna be so much fun. I really can't wait. Okay, syllogism, right? What is a syllogism? It's premise, conclusion. Okay, and to be true, they have to the premises have to lead to the conclusion. They have to, work, right? Socrates is a man, premise A. All men are mortal, premise B. Therefore, AC. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. It's the most famous example of syllogism. And yeah, I think that's pretty good logic, because A, Socrates is a man. Yep, he was a man. Okay, check mark. Premise 1 is good. Premise B, all men are mortal. Yep, all people die. Right? The only exception we know of in all history, in sacred history, the Blessed Mother was assumed into heaven. Even Christ, in his impassibility as God, cannot die, but as man, true God and true man, died on the cross. All men die. Right? And dying you destroy death, rising you destroy life. Lord Jesus come in glory. All people die. Socrates is a man. Okay, check mark. All men die. Check mark. Then he's gonna die. He's mortal. That's a good syllogism. That's one. And there's ready for this? Freaking sick. Ready? It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be so dirty in like a good way. Like that guy's a dirty slider. Like you come in the game, bottom of the ninth, it's gonna be 3 outs. He's just a filthy slider. I ever tell you that story? One baseball season, the pitchers are just being a pitcher is awful. I was not a pitcher. It's great because pitchers are terrible. They come in the game like the worst part. Pitchers like once every 5 games, and if he comes in and gets rocked, it's like everyone hates that guy now. Like he only plays once every 5 games. He just ruined it for our team. He got shelled. Like guys are just boom, 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 hitting balls off him. Pitchers are just like they're just clowns, and one of their jobs is to sit in the thing and score the game of the other pitcher. Meaning like I'm a pitcher. I know what good pitches are. So Clayton Zimmerman is pitching for the other team. Clayton Zimmerman report, okay, fastball, 92 miles an hour, changeup, what, and I'm supposed to actually write it, logically speaking, like, Clayton Zimmerman's sinker has a lot of bite. It goes straight, and then at the end, it falls down. It's a good pitch. One of the guys on our team, typical pitcher, couldn't even do that. The coach after the game was angry because all on the chart, instead of real things, like has a lot of bite, breaks well, right-handed hitters hit him better than left. It was just like filthy sinker, dirty changeup. It's like completely subjective. If we know Clayton Zimmerman throws 95 miles an hour, he has a late breaking sinker, and left-handed hitters hit him better than right-handed, that's scientific evidence. We're going to load up our lineup with left-handed hitters. He's a great pitch, 95. He's an amazing pitcher, but that'll be our best chance. And we're going to try to stay away from his sinker, hit his fastball early in the game. That makes sense. But if his pitches are dirty, filthy, and nasty, I don't know what that. So, anyway, speaking of logic, here is a dirty, nasty, and filthy triple explanatory note for syllogisms in all arguments. Ready, guys? All arguments are either valid, sound, cogent, or false. Okay? Valid, sound, cogent, or false. And they go in order. A valid argument is a true argument. Validity is truth in a sense. And some people kind of hair split these, but no, it's valid, it's true. I mean, scientifically valid is like, well, this is a theory of relativity. We're pretty sure. The theory of gravity, whatever, right? Well, actually, excuse me, not the laws of gravity, right? So if the theory of gravity in Isaac Newton has been confirmed, scientifically, it's now a law. An argument can be valid, just all good. A sound argument can have really, really good premises and a strong possibility. We can't say it's 100% true. We don't know 100%. It's a sound argument. And a cogent argument often is very possibly wrong, but as well, you see where they were going. So really quickly, plumber style, valid argument, it's true, buddy. Sound argument, that's pretty freaking good. I'd bet $100 that's right. I'm not going to bet 1,000 like I did on validity. Validity, I know it's right. Sound, I'm pretty sure it's right. Cogent, I have no idea. It's usually a great case, and then false is just wrong. Let's give examples. Okay, a valid argument. NFL football teams, there's 32 teams, right? Every quarterback for all 32 NFL teams is 6 feet or taller. We've confirmed that. We have the stats. Every NFL quarterback is 6 feet or taller. Wilson Lillehammer is an NFL quarterback. Therefore, Wilson Lillehammer is at least 6 feet tall. That's a valid argument. If those first two premises are true, that every single quarterback, not most or whatever, many that see these qualifiers, but everyone is 6 feet or taller, and Wilson Lillehammer confirmed he's one of those 32, he's 6 feet tall. Now, sound argument. Betsy, qualifying it. The vast majority of NFL QBs come from a Power 5 school. Forgive my football nerdom. A Power 5 school means like Pac-12, Big Ten, these huge conferences.
The vast majority, well, let's say 27 to 32 quarterbacks come from Power 5 school. We can assume Wilson is. That's a sound argument, but we don't know. We said that the vast majority actually means not everyone. You don't say vast majority if it's 100%, even if it could be 31 out of 32. So it's very possible Wilson, this quarterback, is not from a Power 5 school, but it's a sound argument. I put $100 down on that. The vast majority are from, well, I'm just going to guess he's one of them. It's a sound argument. Here's a cogent argument, one that definitely could be false, but you can see where they went. A survey of NFL QBs said that many of them, like hip hop music, most don't do their own cooking, and precisely 97% said they like tailored suits when they have to have a suit to dress up. Wilson would probably enjoy a day in Manhattan where we get him fitted for a suit in the morning, go out for lunch at a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and attend a hip hop concert. That's a cogent argument. Sorry? Yeah, maybe, right? That's a cogent argument because a survey of FAQ said many of them like hip hop music. Many is already way weaker than vast majority, 60%, 97% is pretty strong. And most, again, so Wilson would have to like all three. So it's very possible he doesn't. It's possible he's one of the core doesn't like hip hop music or doesn't like suits or whatever. So you see the difference? Very cool, right? Valid, sound, cogent. A false argument would be Wilson Lillehammer is a woman who is a ballerina in the Moscow ballet. And Wilson is actually Willifred, whatever. It's just nonsense argument, and it's not true. We just X out right away. Wilson argument, I love my son again, but is the guy cool pizza place? That guy likes pizza. Just that's a false argument. Okay, now really quickly, guys, let's go. Let's keep crushing, right? We're freaking crushing no matter what. Last thing we're gonna talk about today: deductive and inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning, okay. Inductive reasoning has specific premises to a general conclusion. So an inductive reasoning is more like sound, cogent thing. Inductive reasoning, intuition. Inductive reasoning, probability, okay? Specific premises to a general conclusion. So, let's see. Most men in Idaho are members of the Republican Party, and the number increases in the ones who work in the trades. Therefore, my friend John, who's a tradesman, is most likely a Republican. It's inductive reasoning. He's a guy. We already said most guys in Idaho are Republican parties, and especially people work like him. So I can assume a lot, but I don't know 100%. Deductive is general premises to a specific conclusion. That's the Socratic thing before. Socrates is a man, general statement, all men are more general, but it's 100% deduced from that it's true. A deductive reasoning is always 100% true if the premises match up. Whereas inductive is detective work, tummy feel, intuition. Okay.
So like if you go to the house and turn your light switch up, you assume the lights will go on because that normally happens, and you have lots of experiences of switching switch and the lights go on. But you know, there could be something wrong.
Could be a power outage, or your breaker could have popped. Yeah.
That's inductive. Deductive reasoning would be understanding how a circuit works and going from the principles of the circuit to argue that if you have a perfect circuit, your light will go on.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. So once more, inductive reasoning involves starting from specific premises, forming a general conclusion, while deductive, general premises to form a specific conclusion. Conclusions reached via deductive reasoning cannot be incorrect if the premises are true. So if A and B are true, C cannot. Again, Socrates, those two they cannot be false. So deductive reasoning is stronger, more scientific. Again, I love that I'm doing a tautology almost, like deductions are always deductive, like, duh. But it's like the deductive reasoning, if you can deduce things mathematically, numerically, you have hard evidence, that's great, right? Where intuition is like, I think. Inductive reasoning in college football argument, defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs are usually good teams. Premise number one. Number two, therefore they get a lot of good recruits. So I'm going to induce tummy feeling they might win the national championship. I'm actually going to go out and say that, but I can't. It's not proven. It's not deductive. There's no evidence. In fact, it's something in the future. I'm just kind of guessing. It's cogent. Remember, valid, sound, and cogent. It's cogent. It might even be sound, but it's not valid. So I would say almost. This is my note here. Again, I'm not a logician. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. But inductive reasoning often is in the realm of sound and cogent arguments, okay, where validity, truth, deductive reasoning, specific conclusions. So, go ahead.
The example you gave earlier, the definition of syllogism, all men die on the ants, I will die.
Deductive reasoning. Yeah, the general premises, all men die. That's a general thing. That you are a man is a general statement to whatever, like those two things are true. It's 100% true you will die. Yeah, because you are a man. Exactly.
So as long as your premises are.
Yeah.
True, your conclusion will be.
And
true.
that's-
If your syllogism is in a valid form.
Good, is exactly right. If the form of the syllogism and especially the premises are correct, it is impossible to be incorrect. Inductive, those same things could be there. Good syllogistic form and good premises, but we just don't know. It's like, it's literally is, inductive reasoning is the original, not enough information. It's the original, like we just don't know 100%. It's not guaranteed, you know? Okay, last example, we're done with the class, finished. This class is 8:25 to 9:55, we're done at 9:47. I'm so proud of myself. I don't know what that means. What is square of opposition? I have no idea what that means.
Square of opposition, maybe we should put it on the board.
No, I don't think so. Bring in the square, but I'm telling you, that's what I mean. Like, this class has been so great. We've ladled so much maple syrup in this class so far. And by the way, I use maple syrup. It's the sponsor of our class, technically. Aunt Jemima Maple Syrup, Pearl Mill Company. Now, maple syrup is like information. This is an abstract inductive reason. I can't prove that maple syrup correlates in any way to actual information. But I imagine pancakes being the matter of the class. And we've ladled a lot of that maple syrup. I've had 2 bottles of Aunt Jemima's finest home recipe, Founder's Reserve. Next class, you want to bring in square of opposition. It sounds stupid, but okay.
We get from like Aristotle and Boethius.
Name dropping, I get it. I get it. You travel in elite circles, we understand. Deductive law, yeah, please do. Betsy, I swear to you, I can't explain this enough. You came in the class and you're like, I'm sorry for not. I've said this so many times without being cheesy. Like, I respect your intellect so much. Please, I will learn along with you all. I have tons of stuff for you. I honestly don't know what that term is. Bring that in next class. And actually, I'll invite you to explain it and stuff. Like, please, the more, and any of you, this is true in my field of expertise, quote unquote. Like, I've had moments, maybe I've told you before, but when I was in Illinois, I had to give a talk about the Civil War to the Champaign County Roundtable. There's a bunch of like history nerd guys. And like, I learned so much from them. You know, I'm the professor of Civil War history at the University of Illinois, which is a great school, all ivory tower stuff. And these guys are just history buffs. They knew more about parts of the Civil War than I did. And I love that. It's great. Aquinas, God bless him, is always like, humility is the most important thing to learning. Like, you always have stuff to learn. So please don't apologize. Next class, bring that in. I don't know what that is. I'd love to know what that is. I have we've covered like maybe 10 principles today. I have like 70 left in this formation. I did not include that one. So I would love to have that included. But all sarcasm aside, I don't know what that is. So I'll be excited to learn from you what that is next class. Deductive logic example, last one. Cake. If you bake a cake too long, it is ruined. You have not baked it too long. Okay, it is 100. If you bake a cake too long, it is ruined. Okay, that's true. We can scientifically. How long are you supposed to leave a cake in the oven? I don't know what it is, but triple the time. It will always be ruined. It'll be burnt to a crisp or whatever, right? We know that to be true. Unless this is hilarious, like the one objection here would be, unless there's some kind of cake that you can make with some kind of material, like, well, if you use, avocado oil plus coconut oil, whatever, it actually can bake for 9 hours. Unless that exists. But in fact, this still would hold true, because then 9 hours is a limit. Let's bake it for 10. If you bake it too long, it is ruined. That's true. But you have not. You follow the recipe. Therefore, it is impossible for the cake to be ruined. It is not ruined.
It's false.
Why? Because you can ruin it other ways.
You can take it out.
That's this crushing. Best, you get gold star of the day. You're right. Okay, tell me what I need to know now what this is. I'm at the edge of my seat. What is square of opposition? Go for it. Yeah, come up and draw it.
I pulled one up on my phone too. Okay. So we will erase this really important stuff you wrote on here. Are you pulling up the square of opposition?
I'm writing, I'm being tweeted about you.
Oh, yeah, just got, oh, yeah, that's cool.
Which I don't get still, but. All on us.
Yeah, dude.
Should take a seat by Clayton. Anyone, I have your email, I have most of them, anyone not have their email here? I think everyone's,
Except for Pat's.
I got that. email.
Oh, you have it. Oh, yes. Okay. And now, you have our phone numbers too, don't you?
I don't want to.
Okay, at some point you sent a text, didn't you?
I have, no, do you have, are you on the block note for their class, anyone think?
Yeah, so it's maybe it's being on the flock note.
Subaltern.
Yes, it's subaltern. And then this is, yeah, contrary. And this is subcontrary. I need to put some arrows here. Sorry, it takes a little while to do this. Okay, all SRP. No SRP. We can tell these are the obvious things. If all SRP, no SRP can't be true at the same time. They are contraries. Now, some S are not P. So, this is a sub, arrow here, and subcontraries. So if no SRP, some S are not P is true, but it only goes one way. If we say some S are not P, we can't reason to that no SRP this direction. And this would be some S R P. So these are subcontraries. They aren't true contraries because some S are not P and some S or P can both be true at the same time. So now, in Groshen's example about the cake, and of course, if all S are P, it's also clearly true that some S are P, but you can't argue back up to say if some S are P, all S are P. So Groshen's example
So if the cake is real,
Is-
it's
is
not necessarily true that you overcome.
right. If Groshen says, all cakes cooked too long are ruined. Then, let's see, all cakes cooked too long are ruined. That's a.
No, I see what you're saying. It's like the three laws of logic based around what we were talking about earlier, contradictions in this negative science and teasing out what is false and what is true gives you a kind of a roundabout, like wheel almost of, plug and play, depending upon what it is.
Right, right.
But if something is this, it relates to the other possibilities of what it could or could not be in this fashion.
Mhm.
That's really cool. That's great. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, yeah, I've never heard this before. This is cool. Very great, yeah. No, people will be like, oh, I remember 5 years ago. No, I've never heard this. Great. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you for emailing. Betsy, seriously,
Sorry.
I'm actually gonna unplug my computer and I'm gonna, for people looking at this later on,
Square of opposite gender.
People looking, courtesy of Betsy Johnson, if you can see the board, later on when this is put on, you can just pause right here in the YouTube channel. Let me see. There we go. Barb, can you see all of that?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. Then yeah, and later on, thanks Betsy again. You can just pause this for yourself and like, etc. I am upset that we deleted Big Teddy's name off the board, but it was for a good cause. Okay, the class is over. What am I gonna say before we go? Parting notes. Pat, thank you for being here. I'm glad to have your email. Hope you'll join us as much as you can.
Thank you for doing this.
No, it's my pleasure. I love it. I honestly, God bless Father Chase. And I say this every single time, praising him, but, from when we all started this in 2019, like it's all thanks to him and yeah, on all the people here.
He's only ended from at the top.
Can't be perfect.
Barbara
Barbara writes, it's true all cakes are ruined dependent upon if it's too long and ruined. Yeah. And Barb makes a good point. Barbara asks me a good point in the comments too, like, yeah, what do you mean by terms too long and ruined? And it's like, that's great. Thank you, Barbara, because we're going to be doing that in the textual analysis of like, yeah, what is the meaning of words? Voltaire, who I'm not a big fan of, may God rest his soul, God have mercy on him. Not a fan of Voltaire, I mean, 0%. But he did have a good logical postulation of define your terms. You know, what are we actually talking about too? What do you mean by ruined? I run a society, guys, called the Burnt Cake Society. Ruined? I don't think so. I think success. I mean, what do we mean by terms? Anyways, really quickly, we will have class on what is it called? Human Rights Day now? I think
Monday, correct?
if I was part of the King family, like this is,
I've been told, in Idaho.
In
Oh.
different states.
I'd be like, if I was MLK, I'd be like, this is my day, man. Anyways, I'm calling it MLK Day still. I'm not in Idaho, and I don't care. I'm not gonna call it Human Rights. I'm calling it MLK Day.
Called it MLK Day and they, or actually looked that out when they pointed out that we're still going to school that day.
Right. Oh, I got it. In protest. We'll have class on Monday and we'll have class just, I mean, every day, Monday and Wednesdays. This week is exceptional because we didn't have class on Monday because class is just starting today. But keep all these things in mind in the schedule. I mean, we'll be doing fundamentals next 2 classes and getting into the books. Get those books if you can. But again, they're not required. They're not required. This class isn't for, I mean, of course, in an ultimate way, but I'm saying as well, I will have the books on me. I'm just kidding. Clay, what do you think about what Cicero said? Here you go. Like, that's would be the heart of the class. I can't wait. Just literally like sentence by sentence and paragraph things. Brad, do you agree with Aristotle? Blank, 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 blank. And why? And defend it logically, and especially Plummer's law. Defend it in a way that's common sense, not because some random whatever. Tonight, last final thing too, there's a spirit in life. Father Chase, myself presenting on sacred liturgy. Yeah, Wednesday. God bless you guys. See you later.
Hey, Brock, and his father Benjamin for tonight.